Oil prices are surging, with few signs of slowing down. Brent crude oil, the global benchmark for energy markets, surpassed $100 a barrel after Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered an attack on Ukraine.
Oil has climbed pretty rapidly over the past year, and it's climbing further with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The main reason why is there's a concern that this conflict could disrupt energy exports into global markets.
The supply and demand dynamics have contributed to the jump in oil prices. And for consumers, when oil becomes more expensive, so do other goods and services. Here's how it works.
There's many different ways that the energy price rises we're seeing will feed into higher inflation.
The cost of living in the U.S. rose to 7.5% in January from a year earlier, a nearly 4-decade high. Economists at Moody's Analytics estimate that inflation is costing the average U.S. household an additional $276 a month. This stems from higher prices across a range of products, including gasoline.
The biggest reason why gasoline prices went up is because of oil. And one of the biggest reasons why inflation was so high was because of gas prices.
Americans are paying about twice as much for gasoline now compared to early in the COVID-19 pandemic. And with demand for oil projected to continue outstripping supply, there's little promise of relief ahead for U.S. households.
It's not just in what we pay in gas at the pump, but this really can have a dramatic effect on all types of price increases across the United States.
For those hoping to take long postponed vacations, the increases in oil could affect airfares. While airline ticket prices have stayed relatively stable during the pandemic, travel booking site Hopper forecasts an average 7% increase in domestic airfare each month until June, citing higher jet fuel prices as one of the reasons.
If oil goes up and airlines are paying more for oil to power airplanes, they're going to raise prices on airfares.
Sky-high fuel costs also affect the prices of the food we grow in the ground.
They'll feed into your plate because remember, we put a lot of ethanol into our car and we need a lot of diesel to plant and harvest.
Farming and food processing can be energy intensive, accounting for a significant share of production costs. Farmers in the U.S. will spend an estimated $16 billion on fuel and oil in 2022, a 35% increase from 2020. This has consequences for supermarket shoppers, who have already seen food prices increase 7% since around this time last year. Much of that increase can be linked to the cost of getting food from the farm to shelves. The same can be said for any other product that is moved by ship, train, or truck.
Oil is one of those commodities that really feeds into every part of the supply chain and therefore impacts the inflation.
If you're a business and you need to spend more just to ship goods across the US, that's going to become more expensive. And oftentimes, businesses will pass on those additional costs for that product onto the consumer.
Trucking companies and other logistics firms have already been dealing with higher costs, which include rising salaries in a tight labor market. And according to a survey conducted by business research group The Conference Board, 72% of CEOs of large U.S. companies said they expect to pass on higher labor and transportation costs to customers within the next 12 months. Consumer spending accounts for more than 2/3 of U.S. GDP, and if consumers have to pay more for staples like food and gasoline, they might be forced to cut spending on other items.
I don't think anyone is expecting the economy to enter a downturn because of this, but I think the idea is that we're going to have slower economic growth than we did last year, in part because of oil prices. It is sapping the economy of momentum.